DNA, right? So Hebrew doesn't have a number system, so to say. So they take, it's kind of like hieroglyphics in Egypt. So they take kind of a letter and it's got a number associated with it. So just real quick, DNA is like a double helix, right? Like a ladder going up. Just think about it. DNA is a double helix, and it's got ladders, for lack of a better term. And what happens is there's these sulfuric bridges, right? And its DNA is made up of nucleic acids, and there's 4 different kinds, but there's these sulfuric bridges. And so every 10 steps, there's a bridge. And then every 5, and then every 10, 5, 6, 5. And that goes on and on and on and on, 10, 5, 6, 5. Well, in the Hebrew, 10 is Yod, and Hebrew's left to right, so this would be the Yod, right? Yod, He, Vav, He. 10, 5, 6, 5. God's DNA legitimately is inside our DNA. Literally. If you don't believe in numbers, then forget the 40 days and 40 nights. If your faith don't take you there, it don't take you there. But my faith, that DNA, the structure, not just in humans, but every single molecule has Christ in our DNA. That's proof. That's good enough proof for me. You know, somebody was talking about Fruit Loops the other day. I have never seen anyone go into a grocery store, buy a box of Fruit Loops, and check and make sure it's Fruit Loops before they leave out of the store. Who does that? Nobody. They get the Fruit Loops and believe they're giving me Fruit Loops, right? By faith. We have a father crisis, but we also have a faith crisis. I listen to all these people, prove to me. We don't have to prove anything. I just put it like this. A building requires a builder, right? A painting requires a painter. A sculpture requires a sculpturer, right? Creation requires, yeah. What are your questions? Not only that, Christ is in our DNA. Not only that, Yod, He, Vav, He. But check this out. H is in there twice, right? It just means behold, right? It says it twice. Behold. But what the symbols mean is behold the nails in my hand. That's what it means. Behold the nails in my hand. Not only is it in our DNA, but it says, behold the nails in my hand. Check this out. I've been on zero for a minute. We're still on salvation, right? Is Minister Davis here? Yeah, no? What's this? This football in my hands, this football probably worth $5 or whatever somebody will give me, but it's not worth that much, right? But if you put this football in the hands of Pat Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers, that's 30 million. That's 100 million. Depends whose hands it's in. Right? If Josh Davis was here, I'd give this to his son. Any other kids here that want the football? It'll be up here. It depends whose hands it's in. This is my wedge, 58. In my hands, it's basically worthless, particularly this club. It depends whose hands it's in. In my hands, it's not worth much, but if you put this in the hands of Tiger Woods, man, this thing is worth millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. It depends whose hands it's in. This stick right here, it's important to me because it's family lineage. But this stick right here, I don't know. I might be able to bat away a few animals. I might use it as a walking cane, but this stick, to me, isn't worth much. But you put this stick in the hands of Moses, and that thing will part the Red Sea. You see, it kind of depends. It kind of depends whose hands it's in. Yeah. These nails right here, I might, on a good day, might build you a deck, or on a really good day, I might be able to do something with them, more likely a birdhouse. But it depends whose hands they're in. And these, in the hands of Jesus Christ, in the hands of Jesus Christ, he took on the sins of all humanity on that day. When he went to his daddy, think about it. A 33-year-old man, his humanity, his divinity, he said, Abba, Father, take this cup of suffering from me. Not my will, let thy will be done. And he took it all. He had to go to the belly. He had to go to the depths of hell for 3 days on our behalf. Every sin that we committed. You know, I told you about going to Jerusalem and whatnot. Talk about the news. There's this guy named Ron Wyatt. And there's some interesting discoveries that he came across. Like I say, let your faith take you where you will. I'll let my faith take me to where I will. But there's biblical evidence of some of these things that they're going to find, right? We're talking about the blood of Jesus and Yahweh and the names of God and Daddy and all this sort of thing. So there is, and there's the Ark of the Covenant, and there's 3 other things. The Catholic Church has property of one of them, and the mercy seat, and all this sort of thing. But he took some dry blood from one of these artifacts and took it to a Hebrew lab and asked them to, like dry blood, you can get certain things out of dry blood, but you can't get a chromosome count. You just can't do it. Not that I know of, not that, maybe with technology they can these days, but dried blood, you might be able to get DNA out of it, such and such, such and such, but you won't get a chromosome count. So they took this blood sample and they reconstituted, and whatever procedures they go through in the laboratory that I'm not intimately familiar with, but suffice it to say, he said, do what you guys do, and then I want you to call me and I'll come back and I want to see the results. Like I said, let your faith take you to where your faith takes you. This is where mine takes me to. And so they called him back. And chromosomes, there's 46 chromosomes, right, in each of us, 23 and 23. And the autosomes, you got 22 from the mom and 22 from the dad. And then you've got one X for the female and then an X or a Y from the male. And there you have it. Well, he came back And they said, number one, this blood's alive. Where did you get this blood? And they said, number two, this blood only has 24 chromosomes. 23 from the mother's side and 1 from a non-human father. And they said, whose blood is this? And he said, this is in a Hebrew lad. He said, it's the blood of your Savior. It's the blood of your Savior.